There you go. We might lose a bit of the light, mightn't we? Might get a bit dark.
Well, yeah, but you want that off though, didn't you?
Yeah, I think it's better with it off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to start with, I think it's best to start at the beginning, when you're very young, but I was going to ask you some questions about your parents and maybe even your grandparents. Do you remember your grandparents at all?
I only knew my grandparents from when I was 8 years old on.
But not before?
No.
And when did they pass away? How long did you know them for?
Well, my grandmother died in 47 and Granddad died about 4 years later, I think. He lived a bit longer, you know.
We probably should have started with this. What year were you born?
I was born in 1935.
1935. So Second World War was starting...
It was on then,
yeah,
wasn't it? When did it start?
Until 45? Wasn't it 39 to 45, I thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it didn't start till I'd been born, did it?
Yeah.
No. And I came back to Bristol actually at as the war was ending.
So you were sent away when you're on the train to Wales?
No, I was 6 weeks old and I was tied into my uncle's car seat, front seat, and driven back to Cwmgwrs in Wales, South Wales.
Was that your parents' wishes?
Well, I don't think my mother wanted me, to be honest. You know, she'd had a girl and she'd died, love, and then she'd had 3 boys, then I arrived, then another baby arrived after me, and I think she just blew her top, and that was it, right, you know.
How old was that? How long did she have that first girl for then? What age did she die?
She was only about 18 months old, I think, or 2 or something like that when she died, yeah.
And you had 3?
She had a heart condition, born with a heart condition that they didn't discover when she was born. They weren't like it in those days, they didn't know half a went on today or anything, yeah. So, yeah, and she died. And I don't think any of my brothers were born when she died.
Oh, so she was the firstborn then?
Yeah.
That must have been tough.
Yeah. Well, that's why she's always been not disliked me, I think, because that one never lived and she idolised the first little girl, though, you know. Yeah. Oh, Harry's come next door, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, you came after 3 boys.
Yeah.
3 brothers, and how much older were they than you? What ages were they compared to you?
They were, I think we were all tripping down, you know, about 12 months apart. Or
oh, quite close then.
Very close, yeah.
And we had, I know Uncle John, obviously.
Yeah. Uncle Stan first, Uncle John second, Uncle Ron third, and me fourth.
Right.
I'm not sure they might be a little bit older than I was. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
It's too old to remember.
And what was it like growing up when you were young, like your early memories?
Very good with my aunt and uncle in Wales.
That was a little bit later though, right? Were they your earliest memories, or do you have some memories before you went?
No, I went at 6 weeks old.
Oh, did you 6 weeks?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and my mother came, I can remember her coming once to see me when I lived in Wales near Christmas, and she brought this doll in a case, and I think it was china head or something like that. Peter picked it up and dropped it and it broke. It was a truth.
Oh dear.
But I was never interested in it anyway, so it didn't matter.
No. So you think surely that had a bit of a, you know, leaving at 6 weeks old must have had quite an effect on your mother. You said you felt like your mother didn't want you or didn't love you.
She didn't want another child, I don't think. I think that was the top and tail of it, you know. And when I was about 6 or 7, she started to come and see me, like, but I didn't want to see her anyway, you know. And I came home when I was about 8, I think, just under 8, around 8, and I just didn't want to come back. You know, there's no way I wanted to come back. No way my mother and I have ever got on. She's always treated me like a little slave. When she woke up in the morning, she'd shout my name and I had to get out my bed and get dressed and start work for her, you know, until I went to work. And then I turned the tables on her then, you know. I used my own discretion. And I always remember one day she was out speaking with her lady next door, and I was talking with them, and I went in and sat down, and she came in and she picked up a chair to hit me with a wooden chair, and I just picked my legs up and pushed it right back at her, and she fell over in the screams. And of course my father came in. I said, she's never going to touch me with anything like that. You can say what you like to me, father, like, you know, I don't like her and she don't like me, so let's accept it and get on with it.
How old were you then?
How old I was then? Probably 14, 15. Yeah.
And what did your dad say? What did your father say?
He never said anything at all. He just said, I can't get between you, like, you know.
Yeah.
He wouldn't stand up to her for me, you see. And I mean, I couldn't get out of there fast enough, and got married to get away from there. There's a lot to, you know, it's terrible to be like that, but I couldn't wait to get out of there and just live my own life, really, I suppose was what it was.
Well, if we can go back to the time that you were being brought up by your uncle and auntie, it's Uncle David?
And Auntie Olive, yeah.
And Auntie Olive.
And they had a Mongol son.
An adopted son?
No, she carried him and that, and he was born, but he was Mongol.
What does that mean?
Because he looked like a Mongol. Do you know they're shaped? They got funny eyes, slitty eyes. Like you probably have seen them around.
Right.
And that was, I think, because Auntie was old and her husband was old. Because my aunt didn't get married until she was nursing for years. Well, she didn't marry him, and just before, I don't know, I can't remember. I got a picture of them married upstairs, you know.
That must have been quite the thing. So that child wasn't David's child?
No. Yeah, he was.
Oh, was. Sorry, I was confused. So that's just some kind of birth defect.
Uncle David married, went to Canada, just like Brian and I did, and tripped about over there. And the girlfriend he was engaged to got married to his best friend, and they had a baby who was called Frank. Then this man dies, and somebody contacts my Uncle David in Canada, so he comes back to England and marries the lady, and they have a boy, Mike.
Can you say that to me again? I didn't quite follow. So hang on, so Uncle David was in Canada. He immigrated to Canada.
Yeah, and he was working out there.
So he was what, like middle-aged or?
No, he was young.
Young?
Yeah, early 20s or something like that. And his best friend married his girlfriend.
Olive?
No.
Oh, right,
lady.
okay.
Her name is Peggy, actually, and I have got a picture of her somewhere. And then she died. Something happened. No, he died. The fellow died. That's right. So Uncle David came back from Canada and married her, and she already had this boy Frank. And then they produced a boy called Mike. And then she died. And the boys were put into Colston School, not far from here, boarding school. And his wife was ill in Ham Green Hospital for a long time. And
Peggy.
Uncle David used to come every weekend and go and see her in Ham Green Hospital, which is no more in existence here outside of Bristol. And that's how he met my Auntie Olive.
Right, okay, because she was a nurse.
Yes.
So David had two other sons before Olive, basically, Frank and...
He didn't have Frank. That was
Frank.
Another couple.
That was his best friend who was previously married. Wow,
and then Michael was Uncle David, so they were like stepbrothers, two boys. Yeah. And then he married Auntie Olive, and they had Peter, and the boys. Michael died when he was gone into the RAF at 18, and he was learning to fly. And he crashed in a plane and got killed at Gloucester, just out of the way.
Really? Was that during the war?
Before, well, as the war started.
Oh, right, okay, yeah, before World War II.
And his grave is out at Chippenham.
Is it?
Yeah, Yeah, because that was where he was stationed in the Air Force, and that's where, if he had said to them, if anything happened to him, he wanted to be buried here, like, and that's what's happened. He said, I used to take Uncle David out every while, like, to see the grave, and that after his wife died, Olive died. Yeah, but Uncle David and Auntie Olive brought me up, really, and put the foundation. I'm totally different from my brothers.
Yeah.
You know.
So they met because he was visiting his dying wife.
Yeah,
at
and
the
Auntie
hospital,
Olive
and
nursed her for a long time and got to know David through that. You know. And he went away for a couple of years, and then he came back and asked her out, and then they got married. Yeah.
And they were living, because as far as I knew, I thought you were brought up in Wales.
Yeah,
so, but they were
he
here.
lived in Wales. Uncle David lived.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, in Cwm Gwrs.
I don't know where that is. Whereabouts in Wales is that? Is that?
Neath. You go on the train to Neath, and then you go on the bus to get to, and it's near Ammanford. It's a certain valley you go up, like, you know, and they lived out there, and Uncle David came to see my parents at York Street, Eastville, you know, down that area, and exactly what happened I don't know, but he tied me into the seat of his car with a cushion and a couple of belts around me, and he got on the water, you know, across the river. We had no bridges.
Oh yes,
then.
no Severn Bridge, yeah.
Got on the boats there,
like a ferry or something.
That's right.
You
ferries,
drive on.
Yeah, because we've been on the motorbike, your granddad and I, over the ferry there, and took me down to Cwm Gwrs to my auntie, and she brought me up, and I didn't come back till I was around nearly 8. Totally different child.
Yeah.
You know?
So what do you know about that, in that discussion or decision between your parents and your Uncle David?
Nothing.
You don't know? They never said anything about it, and you never asked?
My mother I can remember my mother turning up in the war, I think, and she brought a dolly one Christmas, and that's all I can remember. I got a feeling I can remember the boys coming with the mother and father, my mother and father, like, you know, but I don't remember a lot about it. And the next thing I know is my parents didn't come down and get me. They sent Auntie Olive's sister, like my dad and Auntie Olive were sister and brother, and this is another sister that lived over Eastville way. She came down and brought me back to Bristol and took me to my parents' house in some dump where it was, like, you know. And that was where I had to stay, and that was it. From then on, I just muddled my way through.
So, to the nice period of time when you were being brought up before you were 8 with your uncle and auntie, David and Olive, did you have other siblings in the house, or they were all?
Only Peter. There was a Mongol child.
And how much older than you was he?
I'm about 4 years older than he was, I think, something like that. But not much.
Oh, you were older than him?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
So he came along while you were there?
Yeah.
So he probably felt like more of a brother to you than your
really.
blood brothers?
Yeah.
And what was the house where did you have like a garden?
It was a council house, but had a massive garden.
Did it?
It was bigger than the one we've got here. It was wider for a start, because we had a house up a path, a drive, and the garden was from this house right across to that house. The front garden, even longer than that, it was ever so long, and you went up a slope to it, and there was a garage at the top there by the house, like that you put the car, because my uncle always had a car up, and you wouldn't think about it being a council house like you do today, you know. Everybody turns their nose up at council house, but not then. And how he got it, I don't know, but he used to work for wagon repairs to do with the railway, and he was a boss in wagon repairs, and he was always around and about and that, you know, here and there and everywhere. But yeah, it's a long time ago now.
And did Olive work?
Only until she married him. She was a nurse.
She was a nurse, right, yeah.
And he would never let her work after that, so she never worked again then. But she was getting on older, I think, when she wasn't like 18 when she married him. I think she was older, yeah. Because she worked she was in the nursing in France for the soldiers, you know.
Really?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's World War One. She was in France.
No. Would it be World
If it was World War
One?
Two, it would have been while you were a young child. So
yeah, no, it must have been the other one
before
that.
Yeah, World War One. So she was over in France nursing soldiers.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
She must have seen some things there.
Yes, I bet so. Yeah.
Did she ever talk about that?
And
at all?
she was exactly like me. I brought up with Auntie Olive. She didn't get on with her mother, and she was sent down to her grandparents. Oh God, in like St Austell or somewhere like that's in the country.
Yeah.
Down south, you know. And she rode horses. They had horses. They lived on a farm, I think, and that's where she grew up. You know. And her grandfather, when she was 18, paid £100 for her to go to London to train to be a nurse.
£100.
Yeah.
Now, do you know when she was born, roughly?
Jesus wept. I can't remember. I've got a thing upstairs with their birth certificates and everything.
Oh, so we can have a look. Yeah. Well, we can add that in afterwards. You see, I can put a photo and we can show what years they were.
Yeah.
£100 back then must have been a lot of money, right?
Wasn't it? Yeah.
Because £100 when you were young must have been a lot of money.
And this was long before I was born. All this happened.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because she was about 18 when she could go nursing. I don't know if she was 18 or 19, and she went to London, trained to be nursing, and then. As I say, she went abroad with the tail end of the war, you know. So she must have worked from London all that time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was she like?
In what do you mean? What was she
like?
like?
What was she like? How do you remember her?
Very old-fashioned.
Right.
But a lovely lady. She was always my dream of a mum.
She was your mum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah. You must have thought of them as your mum and dad.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never settled down with my parents, really, you know, and why ever they had me back. Well, my mother only had me back to make me work, you know, because she had 3 boys. She needed help
around the house,
yeah,
presumably.
Yeah. And that's the only reason I think she had me back. I don't know. It's not even worth worrying about that. You know, yeah. No.
And sorry, go
on. She asked to come and live here with us, and I refused her.
Really?
Yeah, I couldn't.
When she was much older, presumably, you know.
Yeah, well, she wasn't very well. She needed a bit of looking after, I think. And she asked. No, I would have had my aunt here any time, but I would never. Well, it's not funny. It's tragic, really. But you know, that's
the
life,
way it goes.
isn't it? Yeah. You just get through it and go with it, and that's it. You know. Yeah.
And what was David like?
A very kind, nice person, you know. Yeah, he was much different to my parents. They were more educated than my parents, you know. You see, my father came up amongst the children. He was part of the family, but he thought they were snobby and he didn't want to be associated with them. So he was always down at Ashman's, who was a removing people down at Eastville. And they were down and out, so some of the kids there, and that's how we used to get through with. And but my aunt was the only one that took to her. The other children didn't take to him. There was Beck, Ruby, and Jeffrey, the eldest boy that died. That was it. I don't know. There's 4 or 6 kids there. I can't remember now. It's too long ago to keep abreast of. Ruby, Beck. And 2 boys, Stan, another boy and another boy, that's right, there were 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls, yeah. And he didn't get on with it, you see, and my father were put to go into an office to learn bookkeeping and things like that, and this is what their parents were like, you know, they're different from my parents altogether. And he just didn't take to that, he just signed it, said I'm not staying, and he went to the local kids with a remover firm, and that was
this seems to remind me a bit of Uncle Paul. I mean, we can get onto that later, but Uncle Paul had a similar thing where you were wanting to stay in education, and he didn't want to.
He wouldn't do anything we wanted him to do. No.
Yeah. So, when you went back to your biological parents, that was obviously a horrible time for you because you were effectively taken away from your mum and dad. Did you call them mum and dad, David and?
No, I always called them aunt and uncle. They brought me up how to call them and that, you know. No, I always called them Auntie Olive and Uncle David. Always were called that, but they were different people altogether, you know, to what my parents were.
And what did so I'm talking about your biological parents, but your dad, your father, what did he do for a job? Because you were just saying that he left and...
Drove lorries. We travelled around to the docks and things, you know, picking up and delivering it elsewhere. Driving lorries, that's what he did all his life. That's what he wanted to do, and that was it. Yeah.
And your mother, did she work at any point? I mean, obviously having
I don't think she
three
did.
boys must have been quite busy.
Yeah, she went on the buses, but I don't know when she
What,
left.
is that ticketing, you mean?
Yeah.
Taking people's
Conductress, they used to call them, yeah. And that was in the Warlow. But I don't know whether she went to work when I did, you know, when she left school. I don't really know anything about it. Her father was killed, I think, and her mother ended up in a nursing home or a loony home or something like that, you know.
Her father was killed, how?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Don't know.
And they lived in Bristol?
Yeah.
Your parents? Whereabouts in Bristol?
Minor Road, which is in St Werburgh's.
Okay.
Where they do climbing on a church now.
Oh, I've been to that church, climbing in that church.
Well, if you
it's that area.
If we came 3 turnings along and you would go up and go under the arch and go to Eastville and places, we lived just on that road there, and but that's that was St Werburgh's area there.
Okay.
I don't know any more than that. It's all different now to what it used to be.
And what sort of thing did your mother have you doing in the house with the boys? They were all older than you, the boys.
Oh yeah, I was the youngest. Yeah, I had to do ironing and cooking and cleaning, and never did windows or washing up after meals and all that kind of thing. Yeah, I was just a little drudgery servant, really. You know, that's how I looked at it anyway. Yeah.
And how did your brothers react to you coming home? Because they didn't know you, presumably.
They were all right. They just accepted it and looked after me as much as they could. Yeah, they were very good in that sense. Yeah, they used to take me out so she wouldn't be at me all the time, you see, and but they'd keep me near to one of them. Somebody'd be assigned to look after me that day, like, you know.
That's nice.
Yeah, but I mean, they were very Bristolian, but you wouldn't understand me saying that, would you? But they didn't seem very well educated or very had lots of things about them. They didn't seem to have a lot about them, really, but they were very kind and they looked after me, and that was the main thing, like, you know. But none of them, well, 2 went into an office and the other one went into a factory, but they didn't really go very far, you know. They weren't very they're all dead. Oh, it was only John. He's
Uncle
still
John,
alive.
Yeah.
The other 2 are
See,
dead.
I don't remember the other 2. I recognise the names. Ron and Stan.
Yeah.
I'm sure I must have met Stan, but I don't remember.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it's a long time ago now.
But John was the oldest, and he's...
No, John's the middle one.
Oh, John was the middle
Stan
one.
was the eldest, John's the middle, and Ron's the youngest, and then I'm younger than them. Like, I was the youngest out the lot. Yeah.
So how long ago did Ron die?
Oh, guy, 10
Roughly.
Years now.
10 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
quite a while now. Yeah.
And was he the factory one, or was he?
No, he was in
one
an
of the
office. Yeah.
What did he do?
push pens. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know what company, what office it was or anything. No.
No. He worked at BAC, you know, the big airplane company that used to be massive through the war or after the war and all that, you know, but there's not much of it about now, but that's where he was.
Okay, and Uncle John?
And John was the same.
Oh, the same?
Yeah. And
so Stan, the old one, was the factory. And what factory was that, do you know?
No, I don't really know what he did in a factory. Oh, he worked out there in a factory as well in the end, didn't he? I don't know, I never really asked them much, you know.
Yeah.
No.
And those are your brothers, and what ages did they leave home? Had they left home before you, or did you? Because I know you said you tried to get out as quickly as you could, but I didn't know what age that would have ended up being.
I was the first out of the house.
You were?
Yeah.
And did you go to school while you were back at home?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I went down by the river in town, and we went out to Southmead and I went to school out there. I didn't go to grammar school or anything, just ordinary school, you know. Secondary school, didn't they? They used to call it, That's what I did, Well, and your mum and Jane did as well. They only went to ordinary schools up the road,
Mm. And you left home at what age?
21.
21. I was
married as soon as I could get married, like, you know, without having to ask if it was all right.
And how old were you? So what age did you finish school back then? Would that have been 15, 16 years old?
15 when I was, 15, And at 21 I was married and went abroad.
And when you were 15, what did you do straight after school? Did you...
Went for a job in town.
Yeah,
I know, they're not there anymore. Lindrias were shoe and leather people. Worked for them for a few years. And they used to sell leather around the world, really. You know.
And what did you do? What did you have to do as a job there? What sort of things?
I did a lot of, I don't know, checking that the stuff was coming in and going to the right places. A lot of it was leather that came in, and then it was manoeuvred out to other places, and then they did a bit of shoemaking and sold those, you know. Not a lot, really. It's a little office, 2 older ladies and me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, that's quite nice for a first job, though, isn't it?
Just
Were they nice old ladies?
Well, they weren't old, but
right.
I was 15 and they were about 22.
Okay.
A lot older than me, really, in a sense, but they weren't that old, really. Yeah, they were nice. 2 nice girls,
And what did you do after that? How long were you there for?
All right, now I was there till I was 18, so it was 15, 16, 17, 18, may have been 19, and then I went to WD and H.O. Wills, cigarette people, have you ever heard of them?
WD and H.O. Wills,
yeah.
Cigarettes. So they make cigarettes, did they?
They still do it to
do they?
some extent, I think. Yeah, not a lot, but they were a big company then. And they were the family that built our Bristol University. You know, they were so rich, but I didn't like it. It was a big company to work for, and I didn't work for a small company.
Yeah.
And I only stayed 6 months, and I left and went to another small firm of insurance or something like that in Baldwin Street, and stayed with them till I got married, and then I went abroad.
Okay. So the cigarettes didn't last long, the 6 months. Were you smoking at that time?
Yes, I used to smoke because Brian did, like your granddad did. Yeah.
Oh, but when did you meet? How old were you when you met Grandad then?
16.
I didn't realise I was so young. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How did you meet Grandad?
In the Woodcraft Folk. Have you ever heard about the
yes,
Woodcraft
yeah.
Folk? Yeah, well, I met him in the Woodcraft Folk. Yeah.
The Woodcraft Folk were like an alternative version of kind of Scouts, right? But
yeah,
I always
but
thought
they
they were
were
a bit more
mixed,
hippie.
you see, with girls and boys. Whereas
very progressive.
The poor boys were always on their own, and there was Cubs and Scouts and you know, three tiers, I think, but we were all equals in a club.
Yeah. So
and
more of a socialist kind of version.
I suppose so, and it was run by ordinary people. They weren't posh or anything like that, but they worked hard at it, and you know, we used to go off camping, and because I loved going camping, I was always away from home, like, you know. And I always remember one weekend I was at my friend's, Pat. She lived in Henley. She was my best friend for a long time. And her mum said to me, Pat said you're not going to camp this weekend. And I said, no, I can't go. I said, why can't you go? I said, my mother won't give me the
permission slip. Or
no, the butter, sugar, tea, everything's on ration.
Right.
And you had to take 2 ounces of this and 2 ounces of that and 2 ounces of that. And Pat's mother looked at me, she said, she won't give it to you. I said, no, so I can't go because I haven't got any. Don't worry about that, it'll be with Pat, you just make sure you go. And so I went, I had money because I was working, and almost as soon as I started work, I told her she can go to hell and she can have what she can ask me what she wants out of the portion I got, and I'm having the rest, and that's it. And I bought myself a dress, which I'd never had before, It was amazing, and a lovely skirt and top, and I'd never had things like this. I'd had knitted jumpers or second-hand clothes and things like that. She never thought I was worth anything. That's how she made me feel.
Yeah. Do you think that's how she thought about you?
Yes, I do.
You do think she thought that?
I think that I never came up to the scratch with her. Of course, I wasn't a bird, look. I'm a Luscombe, I'm sure. I'm more Luscombe, which is my father's family. Mm-hmm. I follow them much. Whereas I don't know what my eldest sister was, who she
would have taken after. She was too young.
I don't know, because I never met her now. She was dead long before I was born. Yeah. But
so when you started working, you could start buying yourself these clothes and doing things. And how did you get into Woodcraft Folk?
I went. That's right, we were at school down at Southmead where I lived. We lived on the new estate, which was after the war, you see. And I met this girl at school, Julie, and we, I'd heard something about a club down at the Co-op Hall on the Southmead Road. And I said to Julie, would you come with me? Yeah, she said, I'll come. So we went down about 6 o'clock one evening, and told me better or anything like that. And we turned up. And they said, well, as long as we take this paper and get their parents' permission, they can stay. And my friend and myself, Julie. And my mother wasn't going to sign it. I took it out, she wouldn't sign in that. So I got a feeling I faked it, or whether one of my brothers signed it, or what, something happened. And I went to the club, and I've been there ever since. And I could only do a certain limit of things there, but that's how I met Pat. She was at another club, but we'd gone somewhere, and I don't know, to a meeting or something, and met her. And we got together, and I still write to her now. She lives in Canada.
Really?
Yeah.
That's lovely.
And she was home when I fell last year. Yeah, she was home then. Yeah.
Was she? Did she come and see you?
She's my age. She's 83 now, look, and her son came with her, so I don't think she'll come back on her own now.
No, it's quite old. It's a long trip, isn't it?
And her mum lived till she was 100, and
Blimey.
She died just a few years ago. And then last year, her brother died, Clive, over. And Dad always been very friendly with all our lives,
Was he in the Woodcraft Folk as well?
Yeah, he was a woodcrafter, and he married another woodcrafter girl, like your Grandad and I were both in separate clubs, different clubs, but we used to meet up at a Sunday night club in Bedminster, and that's how you met all the others that were around and were teenagers.
So the different clubs were from different areas, different towns, and then you'd meet up for camping and things like that.
Yeah. And we had taken our three, and the last one we went to was an international club in outside of London, up in that area, and there must have been 20 groups of campers, like might be two or three from Bristol groups are together, and then there'd be another load, and thousands of them there. I don't know where it was now, it's a long time ago now.
Yeah. So you met Grandad at the Woodcraft Folk when you were 16, and Grandad's older than you. So
he
how
was
old was
20 then when I met him.
Do you remember when you first met him, like when you first saw him?
Yeah, at a Sunday night club.
Where was that?
at Bedminster in Bristol, and we'd been out hiking all day, and then we'd gone home, you have a bath and change and meet at the club in the evening, and it's only a club of teenagers, like, you know, with a leader there, obviously, you know, control. But that was where I met him there, yeah.
What did you think when you first met him?
I don't know, I don't really remember, but I know I said he was going out with another girl, and I said, you're not going out with me, if you're going out with her, you made the choice.
So presumably he'd made an advance on you for you to have said that. Would you remember what he did or said to you? Was he...
Not really, no, but I was...
He showed an interest in you.
I wasn't interested in going out with him if he was attached to her, like, I didn't think that was fair, you see.
No, of course, yeah.
Your mind, you know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was that.
So what happened then? Did he was still with her for a period of time, or?
Yeah, we went out for 5 years because I was only 16 when I went out with him, look.
Yeah.
I would never ask to get married or anything. I waited till I was 21 and that was it.
Yeah.
I do what I like, sort of thing. I suppose I was very independent in a way, if you think about it.
I'm sure you were independent from the age of about 8 or 9, given you know, when you came home and got put to work at the house. But you said to Grandad, "Oh, I'm not going out with you while you're seeing that other girl." So did he then break up with the other girl?
Yeah, he did it that night.
That night?
Yeah, she was at the same sort of meeting.
Poor girl.
It was we used to do folk dancing and all things like that, and she was there. And so he spoke to her and he said he didn't want to go out with her or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
You know, she came around and cried to me, and she
Aww.
didn't know that I was.
Oh, she didn't know. Oh, you must have felt awful.
I thought that was awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't say it was me going out with her or anything. I just let it go.
Did she find out eventually? Presumably.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
So, did you go on? You must have gone on dates. You know, back then it would have been quite a formal thing, right? So,
yeah.
Did Grandad have to? Did you tell your parents or anything when you were 16 years old?
I don't know. He used to. He came up to the house, I think. Yeah, I met my parents or something, and it just sparks. You know, went from there. Like, I don't know.
Do you remember any of those dates or you know, where you went together when he came to get you from your house and you went and spent time together?
You
What
did
sort of things did you
pictures
do?
quite a bit. Because pictures were very popular, you see, in those days. You know.
Were they black and white or colour then?
They were coloured. Red shoes came in. Yeah.
What did you say? Red shoes came in.
Well, that's the big film,
Ah,
Red
okay.
Shoes.
And that was the big first colour film, is it?
Thing, yeah. And there used to be lots of picture places. So we had one locally at Westbury-on-Trim where we lived there, and there was another one at Eastville where Brian lived. You know, they were all over the place. Whereas now you just get them in a specific place, don't you?
Yes.
You know,
yeah.
buildings or thing. There was they'd be on afternoon and evening, like, you know, picture shows and that was all we had apart from dancing places at the Downs
and woodcraft, presumably more.
Well, yeah,
meetings.
that's why woodcraft took so much of our lives, I think, because it was something that was interesting, you know, and you were being taken places and doing things and all the rest of it. Yeah. No, my brothers went to the Boys Brigade.
What's that?
Well, it's like the Scouts, but it's just the Boys Brigade. Like, you know, I think it was attached to a church more so than the Scouts would be. Yeah. Yeah. But that was all there was for kids to do, really. There was not a lot of anything, and nobody had any money. You never had any money in those days.
Going to the pictures, was that expensive?
Only about £1 a night, but I suppose that was a fair bit of money, you know, then.
What kind of equivalent do you think that would be now? Like, how you thought of a shilling? How would you think that would be?
I don't know what they charge now.
No, but I mean, when you think back, oh, it was a shilling. You must have had like, how long did it take you to earn a shilling?
Oh well, I used to earn about £3 a week.
And how many shillings are in a pound?
20.
20 shillings in a pound.
And I'd give my mother £1, 30 bob. That's £1.50.
Yeah.
Pound in 10 shillings, and I'd have the other half. You know.
So you gave up half your wages to
so she couldn't complain.
house.
Yeah, I paid paid her more than my brothers did.
Did you? You knew what they were paying? They were paying her.
Well, in the end, I found out, but I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I thought as long as I'm not doing the wrong thing, you know, she's
Yeah.
having enough out of me. I never forget. She used to try and keep me home from work. Because a drop of a hat, like you have a cold or something like that. And one day I got up and I said, I'm not staying home. I go to work and I get paid for it, so I'm going, or so I'll lose my job. So she kept my younger brother home to look after her. He was daft enough to do it.
Wow. So we fast forward a little bit, and you're getting married to Grandad. How did Grandad propose to you?
I don't remember.
Don't remember. That's all right. But you'd been together for a little while then, so 4 years.
Yeah, 4 or 5 years before we got married. Yeah.
Where did you get married?
Where? The church I was saying, where they.
Where I've been. So you got married in the church where I've been climbing.
In there, yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And had you already met Grandad's parents at that point?
Oh yes,
You had,
yes. I'd been over there quite a lot.
You'd been over their house.
Yeah.
What was their house like?
Like ours, where we lived there, old and run down, and,
Yeah.
you know. But the best anybody could do in those days, because we came up in the war years, didn't we?
And what was their household like to be in? Was it? I'm just thinking of your mother, and it couldn't have been very nice at your house for you to spend time there. When you went to Grand's house, did you feel like everyone was happier, or was there also difficulties there?
There was nobody there when we went. There's only Raymond living at home then, because he
Grandad's
had
younger brother.
2 older brothers, and one had died at 14. He'd been killed at 14, and Jack was married actually by then, because he's a lot older than Brian. Yeah.
When you got married, you then left home straight away?
10 weeks.
Well,
we stayed at home because we were going out to Canada.
So your plan was always to go to Canada, get married and go to Canada? We
actually went to see about going to Canada. We went to Canada House down in Bristol and spoke to them about it, and we decided we'd like to go. And so I said, well, I can't go unless we're married. So then we decided, right, we get married, and that's it, like, you know, yeah. And we got married in the March, and 5 weeks after we went out to Canada. I went on a boat.
What year was that?
57.
And why Canada? Why did you go to Canada?
Well, I didn't want to go to Australia, it was too far away.
And those are the two main places that people were emigrating to at that time?
Yeah, spoken about both of them, yeah. And of course my friend Pat was going out to Canada anyway, so that was also
a big draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was she already there, or was she just planning?
She went before me. She was my bridesmaid, and then she went out to Canada just after we were married.
Oh, so only sort of 8-9 weeks before you'd gone out there, she was already out there.
Yeah.
And you got on a boat from, where did that leave? Liverpool, so you drove
train up to
Liverpool.
And I don't know whether you've ever seen, well, you wouldn't now living where you are, but they got a picture on television where the boat is at the end of the road, massive liner is at the end of the, and it's exactly how we went out to Canada. We came off the railway station, turned a corner, and there was a boat, you know, down at the bottom of the road.
Yeah. Wow. And how long, what was that boat journey like? What was the boat like?
A week.
1 week?
I think
it's longer than that. That's quite quick,
No,
really,
it's only it's not very far across to Canada, really. I went down the St. Lawrence River. It's beautiful going down there. To Ontario, not Ontario. Can't think of the name of it now. And then we had to get on the train and go down to Toronto.
And the boat itself, was it comfortable? You had a good...
Yeah, it was very nice to us.
Yeah. Was it expensive?
I can't remember. It did cost money, but I can't remember. We must have saved up for it, I suppose.
And when you first arrived, where did you head? You were...
To Toronto.
Toronto. And did you have a plan in mind of what you were going to do when you got there?
My mother had been in contact with an old couple that she knew their sister in Bristol.
Your mother or brother, did you say?
Mother.
Your mother had been in...
And they met us at the railway station. But if they hadn't been there, Pat was there anyway. We would have gone with Pat anyway. But my mother had sort of started
organised
this,
it.
so we just carried on. And we stayed outside of Toronto for a week with them, and then we got some rooms to move into Toronto and got jobs and that, you know, yeah.
What jobs did you get?
I got an office job, and Grandad couldn't work for the gas company because he couldn't drive a van. He drove a motorbike, but he hadn't driven a car or anything, you see. So he had to get a job, which Pat, my bridesmaid, her German boyfriend, got a job for your Grandad in the bakery, and he was earning money to pay to learn to drive, you know, having driving lessons every day. It was,
Wow.
you know, done as quick as could be. And then he got the job at the gas company then. Yeah,
So you were both working,
yeah,
living in
I went
Toronto?
into an office, yeah.
Yeah. What company was that? What type of company was that? What did they do?
Insurance, not an insurance company, it was a man that handled money, business for the big insurance companies, you know.
And what was it like trying to get a job? Like, so nowadays we would just go online and search for jobs, but then did you look in the paper, or did you have to walk around?
In the newspaper. We went into town proper, and we ended up at the railway station, which was like the central part of town, you know, and bought a newspaper, and I found this thing, and it was only 2 blocks up this area where we were at, the main road, the middle road, Young Street. And so I went up at 2 o'clock, and I waited a little bit, and then the boss came in, and I was interviewed by him, and he said, "Could you start next Monday?" And I said yes, and that was it.
How did you know about this job? You looked in the
In
paper?
the paper, yes.
And did you have to phone them up to arrange the interview? Or?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I rang from where I was, you know, and spoke to one of the fellas there, and he told me when to come up, like, you know, and then went up. And that's how I met Dorothy, a very big, long friend of mine, because she had been with them for about 5 years. And there was another girl working there who was absolutely hopeless, so they edged her out, and I had the whole job, like, you know, that was it. Yeah, because I was okay, I suppose. I suited.
What sort of things did you have to do? What was your job?
Insurance.
Day to day.
It's an insurance agent, I think you call them. So I used to do typing and all sorts of things, like, you know, just general office work, really, I suppose. And I worked for them for 3 years, and then we came home.
So during those 3 years, you lived in the same place in Toronto?
I started right on the edge of the city, but then I moved into what they called Rosedale, which was the part of the city that was developed by the well-to-do white British people, and it was not like, you know, it was on hills, and it was beautiful houses, and all these houses were big, and you had either 3 rooms, you might have had the top floor, or in the flats they'd moved out, the rich people, and now it was other people were renting them out, like, you know, and we lived there for 3 years. It was a nice place there, yeah.
What sort of things did you get up to when you weren't working?
We went to work, and we saved our money. And the first year we spent with the girl I worked with in the office, and
Dorothy?
Dorothy, her husband used to pick us up and take us out and take us up into where the bears were in the forest.
Oh, wow.
Would you call it, or what, outside of Toronto, you know.
Right.
And you couldn't go out at night because there'd be bears around. We had to be careful because there was no indoor plumbing. You had to go down the garden to use the toilet, so you never went on your own. It was always a couple of you went. No.
Yeah, that's something we haven't really talked about, isn't it? Like what the like general living. The toilets outside. That was a normal thing.
Well, out in the country.
Okay, so in the
their
city you
cities
did have a
were
toilet in the
far
house.
more modern than ours were.
Okay.
But this was out in the Rockies, really. You know, out in the forest.
Yeah.
And we used to drive. Oh, I don't know how far, but you'd drive through the forest to get there, like, you know. You see bears once or twice in the forest, like in the light. You see, if you're going out when it was dark at night.
Yeah.
Because we used to go. Dorothy had a house up there that wasn't very posh or in a big old farmhouse, but gangs of us used to go out and we all spend the weekend out there. Like it was lovely. Yeah, it was nice.
Do you listen to music and things together? What
I don't.
Have like
I think we did. We did all sorts of things, really, didn't we? Yeah, I played cards, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enjoying yourselves.
Yeah.
Did you drink alcohol at that time?
No.
No. So you smoked, but you did smoke.
Yes, I did smoke, and Brian did, but we didn't. I think he might have had a few bottles of beers, and you take some bottles of beers up there, but us women, no, we'd have a cup of coffee. We wouldn't have any alcoholic at all, no.
And you were saving up, you said, so the first year you saved your money.
Yes, and we bought a sports car. Cash.
An MG.
Yeah.
I believe we've got a photo of that.
Yeah, somewhere around.
Is it orange? An orange MG?
Green. It was an apple green, very pale green.
Okay.
Sort of like that cushion, really, in a sense. Yeah, like that. Yeah.
And what did you do with the sports car? You were on a trip or something, or?
We used to go all over the place, and then before we came back to England, we finished work and we spent 3 months, and we drove from Toronto right down to Mexico one way, and then we drove up the other way to Vancouver, and then we drove all the way back across Canada to Toronto. Then we sold it, and then we flew home.
When you were doing that, Grandma, did you think to yourself, I never thought I'd be doing something like this?
No, I never. I always thought that
you would go and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is what we like doing, and that's it. We had a special tent to go in this little midget car. I don't know what it was, a sports car, and a couple of pots and pans and things like that. And we only slept in it once, in the Grand Canyon. We stayed in it. Every other one, when you got to a motel, it was so cheap, it wasn't worth bothering about camping.
Really?
Yeah, we just went from motel to motel wherever we were going, Yeah. And as I say, we went right down to Mexico City and back up. And then we stayed in Los Angeles with some friends that we knew from Bristol, and then we travelled on up to San Francisco and on to Canada, Vancouver, went to Vancouver Island and all that, and then we drove all the way across Canada. Not much to see across Canada. It's from city to city, which is hundreds of miles apart.
Yeah.
And it's very, just like grassland it was then, Yeah. It was a long time ago now, isn't it?
Well, you tell me, what kind of year are we talking about? 58, 59, 60?
57 we married. We went out in 57 and we came home in 60.
Yeah.
I had 3 children, 2 pregnancies, and the 3 kids. And when...
Hang on, let's not jump ahead too fast.
When
were you pregnant with Uncle Paul?
Pardon?
When were you pregnant with Uncle Paul? Was that while you were in Canada?
Yes, to the latter I shouldn't have been, but he got drunk and I was.
You shouldn't have been.
No. But we didn't have birth control.
No, you didn't. Yeah.
Had after,
But what makes you say you shouldn't have been? You weren't planning on it.
No, it was accidental.
But had you spoken about having kids in the future or not?
Yes, when we came home.
Right, so you had a plan. Right, we'll come home and then we'll have kids.
Buy a house and then settle down and have a family. Yeah.
Right.
That was a bit early, but we came home and then we bought a house up down in, that's right, and I didn't like it, but he liked it, so we had it. And after I had the twins, didn't even have a washing machine or anything. We had a boiler to boil nappies in, that's clothes, and things like that. Yeah, gas boiler. Can't imagine that, can you?
Blimey. That sounds like a stove, like a camping stove.
Yeah.
To heat up water.
Your mother's got a boiler to do the puddings in at Christmas.
Yeah.
That was what we had when they were born. Not that one, but one like that. And I didn't like the house, and I thought I'm going to do so. I can't, he won't move, you couldn't move him. So I said, I fancy going back to Canada. Oh, do you, he said. So I talked about it. In the end, yeah, we're going, like, you know, so that was it.
You came back and you were pregnant with Uncle Paul at the time when you came back. Did that speed it up, or were you already planning on coming back around that time?
We were coming back.
You were already coming back anyway. You just weren't expecting to be pregnant at the time.
No.
So you came back pregnant with Uncle Paul, and you probably didn't get a job or anything at that point yourself, because you come back.
I'd never worked in Britain at all then. You see, after we'd gone to Canada, I'd worked.
Yes.
But coming back, I was pregnant, and I never worked since until the twins were about 8 years old.
Yeah. Oh wow. Okay.
Your mum and Jane.
Grandad came and he'd been working at the gas company in Canada.
Yeah.
What was that called? Do you know what that was called? That must have been a national...
Toronto Gas Company. It
right.
was known as, I think.
And he came back with you when you were pregnant with Uncle Paul. You got the house that you didn't like, and he must have had to get a job straight away, presumably.
He worked on building societies, I think, and the place. He did get a job in town. I don't know what that was to do with gas, I suppose. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then he worked out at Hannam, which is sort of over your way to go into where your mum lives now, sort of thing, on the edge of Bristol, building new houses, and he was working. Is that your phone?
Nope. That's Harriet. I'll just give it to him. We can pause this and come back to it. It's all right. Harry? Sorry. It's okay. Yeah.
That's Harry's, is it?
Yeah, it's Harry's phone.
Oh, right.
I'll just check that it's still recording.
It's not recording all that.
It is, yeah. Well, that time it's got Buddy in there still as well. So, you decided that you wanted to go back to Canada, but partly because you just didn't like the house and the fact you didn't have a washing machine.
We couldn't get anything up together. We had no heating in the house. Whereas moving out to Canada, we had hot heating everywhere. You know, everything was warm because it was so cold. They had to have some way of keeping the places warm. So they had all these radiators everywhere, or blowing hot air. You know, in lots of places and that. So I decided, well, we better go back then and enjoy life a bit, you know. So that's what we went and we did, and settled down, didn't we? I'm trying to think. I think the girls must have been about 3 when we came back. It was only there a couple of years, I think.
So you went out to Canada with just Uncle Paul when he was like 1 or 2. So while you were in the UK, you had the girls, the twins after Uncle Paul.
And they were 4 months old when I flew out with them.
Poor blimey.
Yeah. Can you imagine it? I went up to London, some friends drove me up to London. Brian went early and trotted all around various places in America because he'd gone to America. He'd been talked by his cousin that lived in America. Like, you know, they'd signed him out so he could go over there. You know, he'd applied to the government or something.
Some kind of visa type thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Immigration thing, yeah.
And then he couldn't find a job, didn't like it, so he moved up to Toronto and rang me. He said, I'm up at Toronto. I'm back with Gas Company.
Yeah.
Toronto Gas. So he said, will you come out now? I said, yeah, I'll start, you know, sorting it all out and so forth. So I had, and of course it was hard work with the twins, you know, and being on my own.
You were on your own with Uncle Paul, who was what, like?
He was 2.5.
2.5.
Yeah.
And 2 twins baby girls who were 3-4 months old.
They weren't that
and you had to get everything ready, leave the house.
I didn't do anything. You see, what I did was I rang up the solicitors that we had used when we came back into England in town, and spoken to them and said that I'm not capable of sorting the house out or, you know, anything. I said, so I want you just to set it all up.
Mm-hmm.
And so before we went, my brothers took what they wanted, sort of thing, you know, out of the house and that. And then we shut the house up, and they already had an agent in on it, like, you know, and so it was sold not long after we left, or I left, because I was after Brian when I went out there. I went and I flew out with the 3 children. Now you couldn't do that these days. you've got to have one baby, one person, or one child, one person today, you know, under a certain age. And Paul was he was under 3, I think, when I flew out, and twins were just 3 months old. And they tried them in the sky cots on the plane, but they didn't like the noise, so anybody on the plane that wanted a cuddle could have a cuddle, like that's what I had to do. And
did people do that? Did they? They wanted to make a fuss of the babies.
Oh yeah. Well, it was lovely to see 2 babies the same. You know, everybody's always thrilled with that sort of thing. And so we had to land in Montreal because in those days everybody had to go through the government. You know, would you have at airports to
or like passport control and things.
Yeah, and also that you're not smuggling.
Oh yes, security and everything. Yeah,
and you had to go. Everybody had to land in Montreal and do that. So they said to me, the hostess said to me, "You sit where you are, and I'll give you both babies, and you've got Paul next to you. Just sit there, and when everybody's off, we'll get you off." So we sat there, the kids and me. And everybody had gone, and down come the pilot and his co-pilot, and they had a twin each, like, you know, oh, we'll have that one.
Yeah.
And I looked after Paul, like, down we went, and when we got down the steps of the plane, there was a young lady waiting, a hostess, and she had a trolley. She didn't have any prams or anything, but she had a trolley that you would use in the shops.
Yeah. And
she put both twins in there, and she said, "Come, Paul, you can hold my hand. Your mummy's going to have an hour to wash and freshen herself up, and then we'll come back and meet her here again in an hour's time."
Wow.
And off they went. Paul was very good, you know. Yeah, and off they went. So when I got back, they were there waiting for me, and we all got somebody else to get the twins as well, and they got me on board again, and then came off at Toronto, and of course there was Brian and Dorothy and Ray and that were there to meet me then. So that was it. But I was quite... if I do things, I just do them. I don't stop. I think I know what I want to do, and I do it. And we came back on our own, just me and 3 kids on a boat.
On a boat this time?
On a boat.
On the way back?
5.
No, so hang on, so you went back to Canada, and how long were you there
2
this
years.
time? 2 years. So the girls are 2 years old, and Paul's 4.
Paul was just coming to start in school. And of course he had to go to school because he was coming to 5, so he went to school around the corner, and I said to Brian, "I'm not having this. He's not going in with all those horrible Canadians. We're going home."
Why were they horrible Canadians?
Well, they're a bit loudmouthed, aren't they?
Are
full of confidence, Canadians as children, yeah.
So Grandad must have fit straight in then.
Yeah. And so he said he took me up to Montreal, and we got Paul and twins got on a boat, and that was it. And he went back to Toronto to gather more money together, and I said, "Please come home for Christmas," and that's what he did. He came home at Christmas time, just before Christmas, yeah. So but because I never even thought that he wouldn't, but some people thought he probably wouldn't. But I never thought that. Just thought that's what you're doing, you're doing it. So
he did.
And he flew home, came home with a suede, like leather coat for me over his arm, so he didn't have to. He could have paid duty had it been in a case or something.
Oh, a new
like
thing,
that,
yeah.
Yeah. And we stayed with his mum, and then we stayed with my mum, and then I'd already booked a new house further over the way, and we moved there just after Christmas, I think, something like that.
What was it like staying with your mum at that time?
Bit tough, but it was as tough for her as it was for us, really. You know, I used to take them out as much as I could. It's quite a lot having 3 twins and another child. You know, it's.
I can't imagine.
No, and I just did it, and that was it, and that's the way I am. Where some people, they just panic about it, but I don't. You know, I just think, oh well, get on with it. Yeah, but when I looked back on it, you know, I thought it was quite a
feat.
Quite a thing. Yeah, quite a thing.
Yeah.
To for the poor little things as well, because it's very difficult just having one person, you know.
Yeah. So you got back and Paul was about 5 years old and the girls were 2 or 3.
Yeah, they were 3, I think, then. Yeah, because he was just going to school, yeah.
Right.
Just gone 5, yeah.
So when they were growing up, what was that like? You still weren't working?
No, I didn't go to work until the twins were
8 years old.
11.
11?
They were at senior school when I went to work, you know, up at senior school. And I started work in the local doctor's house where he ran the surgery, and you know, there's 4 doctors there. I worked for them for a few years. And I belong to their surgery now. Funny enough, I don't know anybody there or anything. It's too many years ago now.
Do you tell them when you go there how I used to work here?
No,
in the 60s?
Because they now work in a new place. You know, they've got a new place built for doctors with all the setup and all. Whereas they had a couple of houses around there that they set them up as a surgery, but you couldn't change them too much. You know. They knocked down here downstairs, so they had lots of people sitting around. All the doctors were upstairs. Well, it was only 3 at the time. There was only 3 rooms upstairs, you know. But yeah, it was. And when I left there, I went to a couple of office jobs, and then I ended up with the Co-op Funeral Service. I worked at Westbury-on-Trim for several years.
Westbury-on-Trim?
Yeah.
With the funeral service?
Yeah, Co-op Funeral Service, yeah.
How much?
Have you been outside? You haven't been outside for ages.
Is that where he wants to go? I think he's alright.
Anyway, haven't we said enough now?
Almost, Grandma. I mean, we're at the point where the Paul's at school, the girls are a bit younger, but when they go to school, you go to work.
When they were at 9, I went to work.
Yeah, when they were going to secondary school. And the next thing, I suppose, is probably when Uncle Paul was, 14, 15 years old, towards the end of his schooling.
Yeah. And he got a job. He went for an interview, you know, and all very difficult with Paul. He was very difficult. And I said to him 3 months before he was going out for this job, like we knew it was sort of coming up, sort of thing. Interviews would be coming up. So I said, when you go for the interview, you have to wear a tie. You know, off we go. I'm not arguing with you. If you take it off when you're down there, that will be up to you. But we are supposed to guide you into the right things. And I said, you're going for a job and you're going to see a very nice person or sit and talk to you, and he'll wear a tie as well. And so you wear a tie. Anyway, he went with it on, and he came out and he said, thank goodness you made me dress up. Because he was so difficult, you know, everything had to be his way and nobody else's way. Like, you know, I said, it's not me being difficult, it's how people are. You have to do these things to move up through with people. But I was called up to school, wherever it was, and it's gone now, the school's gone now. And the fellow said that we can't do anything with him. I said, well, I can't do anything with him. He doesn't have a father that will make him do the things. I said, so I've given up. I said, so it's in your hands. And that was it. They never called me up again. They just put up with him, I suppose. He used to run away from school and all sorts of things. Yeah.
But this job he was going for, what job was that when he went for the interview at the time?
It was for mechanic, to be a motor mechanic, but he went on lorries to be a lorry mechanic downtown somewhere or other. And he worked for them, did his apprenticeship through with them, and that was 5 years, I suppose, the apprenticeship, wasn't it? Yeah. And then when he got through it, and extra year, I think, and then he got himself another job somewhere else, like, you know. But by then, he'd left home anyway, and we didn't even know where he was.
What happened? How did that come about?
How did that come about? I think...
So he had his interview and he was still living with you?
Yes.
Because you sent him in the tie, and he must have got the job and he got his apprenticeship, and then at some point he left.
Yeah, And he used to have a car, an old car, and he wouldn't tax it and he wouldn't insure it and things like that. And I said to Brian, you got to sort that out. I can't do any more with him, like, you know. And so what he did was he ran away one night with the car. He just didn't, when I got out in the morning, I went in to call him and he wasn't in bed. Of course, I didn't know when he came in. He was older, he was working, you know, so he wasn't under control or anything like that, you know. And he wasn't there, and I thought, oh my God, what's happening? Like, so I got the girl. Brian was in London on a conference, so I got the girls out and said, oh, come on, we've got to go to school. And I got them to school. I didn't tell them that he wasn't there. I got them to school, went to work. I was working in the co-op downtown. And in there was a friend that knew Brian, and I spoke to him and I said, what would you do in my place? I said, you know, there's Paul was gone and I don't know where he is. I don't know where to start. And he said, well, you ring Brian and tell him to come home. I said, what? He said, you ring Brian, I just told you, and tell him to come home. I said, I could laugh instead of doing that. You know, he's not going to come home. Anyway, I did ring him that night and he came home the next day.
He did come home?
He did come home, yeah. But he couldn't find him any more than I could, like, you know. And one day he was driving up Muller Road and he saw Paul walking up Muller Road, and he stopped and got out and spoke to Paul. And Paul took him to where he lived. He had a room round there or something like that, and he took Brian round there, you know. So a little while after he came and knocked at the door, and I opened the door, and it was him and his girl. I didn't know the girlfriend, he had a girlfriend. And he said, we've come round to see you. I said, oh, that's nice, come on in. I said, do you want any dinner? And I cooked a dinner for them, you know, and then he settled down then, and he would come round and so forth. But he married, not that girl, he was engaged to that girl, but he dumped her for another.
Marion.
The one he married, yeah. That's right, yeah. And they didn't last a year, did they? About a year, I think, and then they divorced. They left each other and it ended in a divorce. And then he met this one, Ruth, down, and I don't really know this one. I stay out of it altogether, like, you know. What
was it like when do you remember when he knocked on the door and came to see you again? Were you shocked?
Yes.
How long had it been that you hadn't seen him and spoken to him?
Oh, a couple of years maybe. Quite a long time, yeah. Because he left here when he was doing his apprenticeship now.
So were you pleased when he came home?
Yeah, I suppose so. But I sort of lost. I
touch.
I'm not worried if he comes or not. Now, you know. I don't ever, very rarely. You know, he came around on my birthday with a bunch of flowers, but I can say thank you very much, but that's about it now. I just don't have any connection with him. I don't know why.
Because you fell out? Because you feel like you fell out and...
Well, we never, I don't think we rowed or anything like that, but I just got unused to him being around here. You know, I don't know. Yeah. He's never had a lot of attachment to the house or anything, you know. Like when we put him to coast in school, and I had to go to work, and I said to him that morning, don't do your dinner, don't cook a dinner, please. Wait till I'm home and then you can cook it. I'm not going to stay in the kitchen or go out and work in the garden, but I'm just around. Well, the next day I'd come home, I could tell he'd cooked a dinner, and he did it. So he'd do everything you asked him not to do, you know. So in the end, I just stopped asking him.
So did he take after you in that respect?
I don't know who he took, because your granddad's very stubborn, you know. I don't know who he took after, really.
How old were the girls at this point when Paul's just
Well, they were still at school when he went to work, though, but they're 2 years younger than he was, I suppose, aren't they? No, yeah. I don't know. But I suppose you could say I'd never really had a lot to do with boys, all my growing up or anything, you know. And I don't know. He was a funny type of lad. You want it out, do you? Yeah.
Get yourself comfy there, Budge.
Yeah.
So, when the girls left school, you were still working. You and Grandad would have still been working. How would you have been then?
But when they left school.
Yeah, around that time we were like.
Paul was born when I was 23 or 4, wasn't he? Something like that. And the girls would have been born when I was 27, 28, I would think.
So you would have been late 30s, kind of age. Early 40s,
when they left 16 years they went out to work. So it was 28, 38, 44. Yeah, I was middle age almost. Yeah. And they were, but they were as good as gold. They were never any trouble.
No?
Funny, I don't know why. Yeah, totally different.
I imagine they'd be a lot of trouble.
They were wicked, I think, but that's not trouble, is it?
No.
You know. No, they were and of course we never had restrictions on them. They didn't have to be in at 9 o'clock at night or anything like that. Because I couldn't see the point in it. They knew what they wanted to do and they did it,
So were there restrictions on Paul when he was younger or not?
No, not really, no.
So they all grew up doing what they wanted to do mostly?
Well, when they were younger they had to be in by 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock or whatever, but once they went to work, well, then they went their own ways, I think, they just pottered along and that was it. I don't know, it's all a long time ago now.
Yeah. So at this point you're still working with the insurance company? The funeral,
Co-op.
the co-op funeral services, yeah.
Yeah, I went with them. I worked for 16 years with them, I think. Yeah. I left, I think just before I was 60. I was 58 or 59 because Brian had retired and he'd been home for 2 years and I thought there's not much point in me staying at work. He's not going to succeed a great fortune or a great pension or anything else. And I was like, give up, and I did. And then we had the problems with Jane, and then we got her settled down a bit, and then she went to night school and things, and then she said, I'm not going to university this year. I'm going to stay with Alex and Emma, give them more attention, and I will go, I don't know, it's 2 years' time. I said, and I spoke to Brian, and next day I said, are you sure about that? She said, yes, very sure. I said, because we're going abroad. And we went to Australia. We went away for 4 months, I think. We were abroad. And Claire was always around for Jane, looking after her, helping her out and that they were doing. And then we came back and we were here and that was all right then, And then she went to live with Michael, so that made life a lot easier for us that she had another person in the house providing money and all the rest of it, I suppose, But I was very sad when they split up, as one of those things,
When Michael and Jane split up, you mean? You weren't sad when David and Jane split up?
Never liked him. He never liked us, and he showed it right from the start. It was the most peculiar setup. I never met anyone like it. And she had a lovely boy for 5 years. Lived along the road there. And then she gave him up and went swimming and met this so-and-so. And he was not the right person at all, but nothing to do with us,
You say went swimming. What was that all about? Went swimming. And
Jane,
met David. Yeah.
I met him swimming. He was a swimmer as well.
Oh, they got into swimming, competitions or clubs or something, right?
Something like that. Yeah, right. I don't know a lot about it. I don't remember a lot about it. But there you go.
So then you got 4 grandkids knocking around every now and then. I remember coming over here to this house. How long have you been at this house?
Well, the girls were 7.5 when we moved in here. Long time, isn't it? It was nine. I'm trying to think. I don't know which year. What the year was now. I can't. Well, they were born. Paul was born in 60. Was he?
Mum's 1963, so
that's right. Yeah, and it was in. And they were born then 63, 64, 65, 67. It was 1970 when we moved into this house.
1970.
About 7 years old. Yeah.
How much was this house cost you then?
£3,500.
And that was a lot of money then, or not
It
a lot
was.
of money? Yeah, that was a lot of money.
It was touch and go that we could
afford it.
Keep up with it. Like, yeah.
You got a mortgage on that?
Yeah.
£3,500.
Yeah. And paid £15 a week, or I don't know, something like that. Once a month it was done, or something. I don't know.
So the house was worth £3,500 in 1970, and it's 2018. And what's it worth now? Must be worth. I don't know how much it's worth, to be honest, but a lot more. Just to give us an idea, you've gone from
I did know, but I don't know anymore. I don't switch. I don't look at the screen up there. I used to follow houses like at one time. I don't turn it on at all now. No, I don't know how much it's worth. I really haven't got a clue.
A lot more than what you paid for it, though.
Yeah.
So it was a good investment.
And it won't do us any good, but it'll be left to the kids.
So, Grandma, that's I mean, unless I think that's probably about
I would have thought
it
so.
for life, for the story of your life so far. But I've got some questions now that are just I wanted to talk about your life. Well, we kind of have done throughout, like from when you were younger to older, which we've done, and now I've just got some questions.
Right.
All right. So, are there any favourite or special people from your life that myself and like Mum and Jane haven't met? People from your past?
Haven't met?
Yeah, so you mentioned some people that were obviously special to you, like Dorothy.
Yeah, because the children knew her.
Oh, they did?
Or met her.
Oh,
I mean, they wouldn't know her as well because they were that much younger. But yeah, they had been in this house, so they came over when the girls were 7. Yeah. And the last time only Ray came over with one of their eldest son, Fraser, and we got pictures of them in the garden. I don't know when that was, but Dorothy died in about 1980, I think it was.
And David and
my aunt and uncle.
Yeah, and Olive and Uncle David. Did they know Mum and Jane and Paul?
Yeah.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did they visit much and they got to see lots of them?
Every week, when they were at school I didn't, but when they were home on holiday I always took them out there, yeah. But she became ill not long after we moved into that house over there. And the girls were little toddlers then, weren't they? I think when Paul was about 7 or something.
She became ill and then passed away. What was she?
Well, she lived quite a long time in bed, but she couldn't get out of bed really,
What was
wrong? What happened was one year, I had Peter died because he was a Mongol lad, Peter, their son, and Auntie died very quickly after. That's right. Yeah, she did, didn't she? It was only about 3 or 4 weeks after. She'd been staying in bed and keeping herself alive for Peter, and once he died, she started to go downhill. Yeah.
And your Uncle David was still alive then?
Yeah, and he lived 2 or 3 years after her. And I used to go up and visit him at, where he lived in Warfield, yeah.
You lost all 3 of them in quite quick succession then, really?
Well, Auntie and Peter was very quick, but Uncle David lived another 3 years, I think. But he ended up in hospital and he was there for 5 months before he died. And he was quite old. He must have been 90s or something like that, Yeah.
Were there any other favourite people in your life? People that you think, they were special people?
No.
No, none others that you think of? Okay.
That's strange, that, isn't it?
I don't know.
There's people I like, but you know.
Special people though.
Yeah.
Dorothy.
Yeah.
Olive.
And
David.
Auntie and Uncle and Peter. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you think your priorities in life changed from when you were younger to when you were, you know, these days? So when you were younger, what sort of things mattered to you then? And do you think the same things matter to you now?
Family, I suppose, is, you know, the girls have always been important in my life, the two girls, but I can't do that with Paul. You know, he's never wanted to know us, really. It's very strange. Because he thinks the world of you and the boys and all that, like, you know, but he never had much to do for us. Claire used to make him come and cut the hedge out there when she and Jane came. Yeah, they used to make him come as well. But we've never seen much of Paul, really. We see him occasionally, but not very often. The last time I went to his house must be 15 years ago.
Blimey.
Don't know why. Got asked over there one weekend, and he got our lunch. She would never do anything. Ruth in there, yeah. And we never got asked back. Never been over there since, you know. Very strange. I gather we're getting asked when they're having the house done, I think, next year or something.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, get asked them.
If you could relive any specific times in your life, which ones would you pick to go back to? You know, your favourite times. Yeah. Your favourite moments from your life that you remember and think.
I don't think I would. I don't think I've got any that I think about particularly, yeah. Not as I know. No. Life moves on, doesn't it?
Mm.
So somebody sweet over there on that map.
Oh, it's the tape measure. It's the tape measure. What have been your proudest moments in your life?
I suppose the girls' weddings, you know, I don't know, proudest. Going to see Claire become a nurse, you know, when she got her awards.
Did you want to be a nurse at one point?
No, never had that in my mind, you know.
Because Olive was a nurse.
Yeah, she was a nurse, yeah. Mm.
Did that have anything to do with Mum becoming a nurse, or?
I don't know, love, what developed with Claire. I know she went to an office to work, but she'd already been to French and been interviewed and said she wanted to be a nurse. I don't know how it came about. I don't.
Sad memories. You talked a bit about, you were very young, 8 years old, but you were brought back to your biological parents' house, and that was a horrible memory you seem to be saying there.
Yeah. But I don't think I've got any sad memories on since I've been married or anything like that. It's not.
Well, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can't. There's nothing really. I think I was a little bit sad about Paul, but he'd grown away from us long before he left. Even that I just accepted it. Maybe I just accept things. I don't know. But we don't see him. We saw him on my birthday, but we don't see him from 1 month to another. Sort of thing. Never get asked over there, which I find very strange. But it's the woman he lives with. She's not very family. And she wasn't very much not in her own family a lot.
Family oriented.
Yeah.
And do you have any regrets in your life? And more importantly, do you have any regrets that you think telling us about would help us, the grandkids, in our lives? Kind of like advice, you know. Do you have any regrets in your life and you think, oh, I would have done that differently and you should do this differently?
No, I don't. I accept things as they come and go, and that's it. You know, we do what we want to do. I'm sure all of us do. If you work it out, like, you know, it's what you want to do. No, I don't think I got any regrets.
That's also good. And do you think you've been lucky in life at any points? Like lucky moments in life?
What would you call lucky? I don't
know. I mean,
I don't have any regrets, so I can't have any luckies, can I?
I don't know if you were lucky that you got into the woodcraft folk. I mean, that's had quite a big impact on your life.
It has actually. Yeah, you're right there. Yeah, that one was one of the good things of me growing up.
Back at that time, if you hadn't gone into the woodcraft folk, your life would have been very different.
It could have been very different, couldn't it? Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I suppose there is that. But I liked to go into Canada, but I didn't want to live in Canada. You know, I went back the second time, but I didn't. I decided no, I would not go back anymore.
Why is that? What made you decide that?
I don't know what it's all about or what, but I just liked being in England at home. You know, yeah, I don't know. I think I found the Canadians quite brash, and I'm not really, you know. I'm quiet and hideaway person, really.
More reserved.
Yeah.
British.
Yeah.
What's made you most happy in life, do you think?
I don't know. I'm not liking life at the moment.
Why is that?
I'm getting old and I can't cope with things.
And you notice that?
Oh yes,
and you think, I don't like this.
Granddad's the same. He said the other day about it, you know. I said, well, we just got to put up with it. There's not much we can do about it, you know. But we're not used to being home all the time. But of course, he would still go around a lot, but I don't want to go around a lot. I don't feel safe enough going around a lot now, I don't think.
Safe in what way?
That I might fall down or
hurt yourself. Or...
Yeah, and yeah. Of course, he likes to go out and about, and I don't. I'm more of a home bird, I suppose, really, in that sense. Yeah.
You like reading a lot, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do read an awful lot.
Did you always read when you were younger as well?
Always, all my life I've read. I never read a book at all until my aunt and uncle sent me 2 books for Christmas one year when I was about 10 or 11. And I realised what reading was about. And
do you remember what those books were?
Enid Blyton's, the ones in the boats, and a gang of kids that were together.
Yes. Yeah, I know the one you mean. I can't remember the title.
I can't remember it properly, but I know what I mean. Yeah.
And what have you got any favourite book? Have you got any books that you think I should read? Any books that you think they were fantastic books?
No, I don't have any favourites on anything. I read most things. If I don't like it, I give it up. You know, I don't go on with it. If I like it, I'll go right through it. Yeah. No, not a lot I can offer up.
Is it fiction mostly that you read?
Yes. Yeah. I have done some on people's lives.
Or biographies.
Like that, but not so much as more of the fiction I'd like to read. Yeah. Of course, I used to read all the kids' books.
I'll read to
the 5 in boats and that. And
the famous 5?
That's it, yeah. All those, yeah.
And you're reading now? You still read?
I read every day, yeah.
What sort of things do you read now?
Anything that strikes me at the moment is more about families, I think. You know, families living together and surviving and killing each other and all sorts of things. You know?
Sounds lovely. How do you choose the books? You go to a bookstore?
I always went to the library, but I've given up going to the library now because I can't get up there. I don't drive anymore. So when I go up to Sainsbury's or the co-op up there, they'll have or the bank, they'll have a big desk with books that you can buy for 50p.
50p?
Yeah, and that money goes to charity, and people put the books in to make the charity, you know, to fill the charity box up. Yeah.
Do you take books there?
Yeah, and then I bring books home as well. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So.
It's lovely. Is there anything that you'd like to say to someone that's not here anymore?
No. I don't quite.
You finish it, or you don't understand what I mean? I mean, is there anyone that's passed away in your life that you think, oh, if they were here, I'd want to say this to them because I didn't get the chance to say it? Or that you
no,
left on bad terms?
I don't think of things like that. No, I don't. No. Well, who I see, I talk to, and that's it, I suppose. Yeah. It's, maybe I'm not a deep person, am I? I don't know.
That was it, Grandma.
Right, I know now.
It's lovely. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So,
That wasn't so bad, was it?
No, not too
Can I
bad.
hold that?
Oh, I
You've
think
got
I
it.
can get up. I send Grandad in, do I? Is that what I was there?
Grandad, yeah. Love you.
Oh.
I might get a glass of water.
Yeah.